You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. I hope you're well. The interview subject that I've got coming up for you, boy oh boy. I really feel privileged to do this, I must say, from the outlet, because I get an opportunity to chat to people such as Michael Gira. He's the fella at the centre of New York-based outfit Swans. Legendary band. If you're a heavy metal or hard rock fan and you want to get into a band that embodies everything that so many of the bands that we do love to listen to from the world of extreme metal, but it isn't extreme metal, it's Swans. Swans and Bauhaus, in my view. They're the two bands that I really do dig. And the reason for the conversation with Michael is because we want to talk up the new album from Swans, which is called Leaving Meaning. It's due for release at the end of October this year, that being 2019, if you're listening to it sometime in the distant future. So here he is, Michael Gira.
Hello, Andrew. This is Michael. How are you?
It's good to meet you over the phone. I'm a long-time fan. I must say I was very excited when John put out the call. So thanks for the opportunity.
Certainly, it's my pleasure. I note in your icon here, your picture, that you're enthusiastically playing a guitar.
Yeah, it's a bass. I play both, though, but in that one there, it's a bass. And I play covers. I'm back to being a student these days, and I've got to earn money somehow. And that way is by playing other people's music, usually disco and funk covers, that sort of thing.
Great.
You know, it's look, my main thing, I've got to tell you, Michael, my main thing is seeing people happy and dancing. That's my main thing, because when you're playing covers, the last thing you want to do is play Smells Like Teen Spirit for the 10,000th time and get all the bro boys up the front jumping up and down and getting all the ladies dancing toward the back, if you know it, or not even dancing at all. They just sort of clear off the dance floor whenever that or Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name Of comes on. So
What funk do you play?
mainly Ohio players.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Skin tight.
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's great. And I love Brothers Johnson, so I'm always adding a bit of that in there. And of course, the great masters in Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers and Chic. Those two there. So I'm a massive, I've got to say, I'm a massive disco fan, it must be said. And, Patrice Russian's Forget Me Nots, that sort of thing there. So I hope that's funk and disco anyway. That's certainly as I define it. And I think Stanley Clarke.
What about James Brown?
Well, that's next level. But I've got to tell you, it's very hard to find musicians here in Australia that can pull that off. Because
He's like, if you listen to, there's this extended mix of, I think it's Hot Pants.
okay.
It's like, it's so complicated. It's like Bach or something. It's incredible. There's so many like these little diamonds of nuance in it that it's almost impossible to comprehend. It's amazing, and it's of course just infectious and great too. But it's really beautiful.
It's very hard. I've got to tell you, it's very hard to do a lot of that stuff justice. And because I'm a dyed-in-the-wool disco and funk fan, but you've got to find people and sort of bring them on that journey with you here. And in the States, I know it's a bit different, especially in New York. You know, there are some wonderful musicians in New York, almost in every building there, really. You know, and there's some great musicians here. But our thing here, as you're probably aware, is bloody AC/DC and rock. You know, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
You know, so let's talk about this. I'll ask from the outset, mate. How much time have we got?
I don't know. Let me see. Just a minute. We're supposed to have 20 minutes.
Wonderful. All right. Okay. So, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you on this album here, Leaving Meaning. So, John sent me across the stream a couple of weeks back, and it's one of those albums that I found myself. I had to stop what I was doing, and I had to put on headphones, and I had to listen to it that way. And I tell you something else, and this might surprise you, and I don't know whether you've ever been given this feedback, of course, from an interviewer before, but my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, really enjoys it. She actually listens to it to go to sleep. So I hope that makes you happy insofar as it brings you some joy, because it really helps us out, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, that's great. You know, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
I wish that my children felt the same way. They unfortunately, well, actually, they kind of like this record, but most times when I pick up the acoustic guitar, my children are 10 and 13, respectively.
Okay.
But when I pick up the acoustic guitar, they put their hand on the neck and stop it.
Yeah, my daughters do that too, because I've got two daughters, 4 and 6 of the ages of mine, and I get the shut up dad, stop it dad stuff, because they're trying to watch whatever rubbish is on TV, and there's moments when I might have, I've got a beer around me or something like that, and I feel inspired to create some music, and I play a lot of Psychedelic Furs on the acoustic guitar for them. The British band Psychedelic Furs, and
Sure, yeah.
they can sing along to that, and some Aussie numbers by a band called The Models with James Freud as well. Get into some of that stuff
Sure.
too, but yeah, it's good. I mean, music is, as you well know, being a world renowned musician, music is something that makes the world go round, and the place where that starts is in the household, in my opinion. So I try to bring as
Okay.
much of it. I try to do as much of it live as I can in the household. But look, this album here, I do mean that, mate. I've been following your career ever since. I'll make a point now to return to it, but I was a big fan of Ted Parsons' drumming, if you can believe it, and Prong back in the day, and I wanted to find out what other work he'd done, and I ended up getting into Swans because of Ted Parsons. So I don't know, again, whether you've ever been given that feedback before, but that's what happened
Oh, that's fine.
back in the 90s. But this album, I think it's an incredibly important album by an incredibly important band, of course. And I'm not just saying this to you because I'm talking to you. I think,
Ah, shucks.
I think,
Shucks.
well, and the reason for that is I think in this day and age, Swans are a band you force people to stop what we're doing and listen and pay attention. And in this day and age of 3 second attention spans and social media, and adults have got really adults have childlike attention spans. You are forcing people to focus on what you're doing, and I think it slows down their internal vibrations. It actually makes them more in tune with the earth and what's actually going on. So my question for you
Well,
is,
that's great.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah, and I guess my question for you is this, because I couldn't tell. Normally I'm pretty good at being able to pick up on these things, but is this one of those albums that you crafted around a vision, like you had specific intent and you knew what you wanted it to sound like, or is this one of those albums that unfolded and you just tapped into the muse and just let it flow?
Both. Um, the songs begin on acoustic guitar, of course,
Hmm.
and then I make notes. I can hear just by dint of the kind of resonance and harmonics that are occurring when I'm playing the kind of open chords that I play. I can hear implied in those chords other instruments that will bring out the kind of atmosphere surrounding the song. And so then I think about what instruments those should be.
Hmm.
And I also think sometimes when I'm playing a song at home, I think about people. Like, I'll just picture, like, well, how would Larry play this?
Hmm.
Larry Mullins, who played lots of instruments, but drums also on the record. And it just helps to build a world around the song. And so I'll make notes, and I'll have a kind of a blueprint when I go into the studio, and then start working with the actual musicians. And then usually, very shortly, the notes are just, they might as well be thrown away
Hmm.
because something new occurs. And I just try to corral it, or be the puppeteer in the situation, and make sure that it's still within the aesthetic realms that I had imagined.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly want people to surprise me and to just put their hand in the pot and just make a big mess, and then it's kind of more interesting because that happens.
Yeah, and look, as we've already discussed, I'm a musician, and look, I've probably got to learn to trust people a bit more as a musician when I'm in a band environment, because I've been, I wouldn't say I've been burnt, but I've wanted to trust people, and then you give them some music, and to be honest, they stuff it up. But you of course,
Yeah,
you attract the right kind of musicians given your history and your reputation. So, do you
no,
find?
people didn't call me up asking to play on this record. It was the reverse. I thought of people whose music, first and foremost, I admire,
Hmm.
and then I thought of people whom I like, whom I want to be in a room with. So then it naturally had the correct gestalt when we're in the room together,
Hmm.
because it was just the right situation to be in. And all the musicians wanted to help the song first and foremost, not just shine on their own or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was very helpful.
How do you give them? I understand what you like. You've answered the question already, but from the perspective of this is very complicated music at the end of the day, meaning that it takes a lot of listeners for you to really. It's music that makes you work for it, so that you really can appreciate the
It
vastness
sounds like a
of.
math assignment in school.
Well, it's more that I just find your stuff. I probably shouldn't say this, but if I want to take some edibles or something like that, I will say it. You know what I mean? But it's such a great accompaniment, and it is something that does. It's like going on a trip. I don't know how else to say it. Sorry, and I don't mean to sound like a 16-year-old, but that's exactly what your music has always done for me. And
That's good.
yeah,
I being a child of the '60s, believe it or not, such people are still alive. Um, I was very young in the '60s, but I consumed, is that the correct word? I
yeah,
ingested music at that point uh, as a kind of total psychedelic experience, and looked at it as entering into another world. I mean, I didn't qualify it in that way then, I just did it. But to me, it was an all-enveloping experience. And listening to the first two Doors albums, for instance, at the time when they came out, it was like a great orgasmic cataclysm, you know? It's just a
yeah,
fantastic experience. So I guess that formed the way I want to make records. It's not a collection of songs. It's an experience.
absolutely.
So that's what I try to provide. And I'm also inclined towards kind of cinematic productions. Um, I guess that's just what I have a proclivity for. But
Yeah,
yeah, so there you go.
yeah, you're bloody good at it. So yeah, and I reckon my favourite cut, if I was forced to pick one, would be Sunfucker. And
Uh-huh.
I've read the lyrics,
You can say
and
that word on the radio.
yeah, definitely, I do. I say all sorts of stuff on the radio these days. I'm a podcast host, so I don't. I was talking to
Oh,
Carl Sanders from Nile this morning, and yeah, we went to town a little bit for about 3 seconds just because we could. so so um,
motherfucker.
there you go. But I do love the lyrics. I got to say. To Sunfucker, I love the cut, and I love the lyrics as well. But can you explain the inspiration behind the lyrics?
Well, without killing the song, I don't want to answer any questions it might pose because that kills the imagination, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I was reading this tome, which I did not finish, about Aztec civilization, and there was this
Yeah.
there was this image of I guess it was the high priest cutting out the heart of a sacrificial victim and holding the heart up to the sun, and that just brought to mind this subject matter that I return to, and I have returned to over the years since I guess the album Children of God, about people wanting to subsume themselves in an ideology or a religion or a belief system, and the kind of attraction of that, the beauty of it, and also the negative aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pictured this kind of uh, group or cult chanting the words, and they kind of wrote themselves when I wrote from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Actually, that gives me enough insight just to make my own draw my own conclusions. Actually, and the listener too. So that's yeah, that's killer. I do love the lyrics. I've got them on my phone here at the moment, and I'm reading them, and it reminds me a little bit of what Mark Burgess is doing in the Chameleons too, which is just you're asking questions in a way, and it forces the listener to, as I say, I've said it a few times, but stop what they're doing and think. And not enough music is doing that. And you worked with another artist, an Aussie artist, by the way, who does make people stop and think, and that's the Nex. And you worked
Oh
on,
yeah,
yeah, with two
the next are,
cuts.
you should be proud to be an Australian to have the next coming from your domain.
Hmm.
They are they're an act of God. Uh, I truly love the Necks. I've seen them not, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times, but each time it was a kind of transporting experience. And I truly admire their approach, something I'm not capable of, not being a true skilled musician, of just sitting down on stage. They have no idea what they're going to do. And then these tremendous atmospheres and journeys occur that are uplifting, and I might even say transcendent,
Mm.
and with the barest of means too. A double bass, a trap set, and a piano. I mean, and the piano sounds like choirs of angels at times. It's just, yeah, they're just. I think they're just amazing, and to have them on my record is like a dream come true. So
Hmm.
I was very pleased. I just sent them sort of naked, simple versions of the songs uh, with just acoustic guitar and voice, and didn't really give them much direction, and they just played,
Hmm.
and I was enthralled. And I further orchestrated on it, but so that's how that happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful sounding cuts. Yeah, and it does bring me to another question, which is, did you ever get the opportunity to collaborate with Alan Vega? Just talking about collaborations, but was Alan Vega?
Oh no, no. I was a huge Suicide fan. That's one of the reasons I moved to New York City. In fact,
Hmm.
that such a thing could exist in a city meant to me that was a place to be. Um, and I was a kind of a fanboy. In fact, I was at the shows constantly in New York once I had moved there, and Alan Vega's solo shows too. And I would come to the dressing room and kind of stutter, and uh, he was always very polite and nice, but no, never truly met him in any meaningful way.
I've got to say, I think the music world is poorer that collaboration didn't happen because you are two artists that are very different, but you're on the same wavelength, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah, Dream Baby Dream. It's a song I put it on for the kids again. I love that cut. It was almost going to be my wedding waltz actually, or my wife and I's wedding waltz. And instead we chose a David Bowie cut. Both great songs. But yeah, that was something. When I was thinking, what's a question I could ask you that or what's a collaborator that I would love to have seen you work with? Yeah, that's the only one that sort of stands out because you've worked with so many other great people over the years. And one question for you now about your influence. Are you aware of just how influential you and by default Swans have been over extreme metal bands like death metal bands, black metal bands, that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I've seen that. I mean, it takes a single facet of the music, and I don't want to disparage anyone, and it kind of makes it into a cartoon.
Mm.
But
Yep.
I'm not, that's not really my genre. I mean,
Yep.
Swans at one time, or it's sporadically at times throughout the years, have had a very kind of what's the word? Uh, Overwhelming kind of approach to sound,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and gone into some uh, uncomfortable places emotionally, perhaps, but or sonically.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just one facet of the work. I
Yeah.
guess I just, I don't know. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I can hear it. That's all. I can hear it in a lot of these new drone bands. I can hear that they've borrowed specific elements from
Oh
Holy
yeah,
Money.
I was watching a really good movie, and the title escapes me right now. But there was this soundtrack, and I was kind of, I guess, bemused and how much it sounded like Swans
Yeah, yeah, you'll hear it.
in recent too, and it was strange, but oh well.
Hey, I think I've only got time for the one more question. Gosh, these things are always over so quickly when I'm talking to a legend of music. So,
Oh,
but
please, please, just do my work. I don't feel that way about myself.
oh yeah, yeah, but I'm a fan. I'm a musical fan and a lifelong fan, and with everything that we have an awareness of about what's going on in the world these days, I'm a firm believer, and I say this all the time on the podcast series. But if it's not the Michael Girards and the musicians, the magicians, the artists, and the vagrants. The world really does stop turning in a lot of ways. If it's not for the creatives, is what I'm saying. And you're a big part of that, mate. And I want you to know that because of the music that you've made, people's lives are infinitely easy to live. I know it's a
Well,
heavy burden.
I admire people who build bridges. For instance,
Engineers.
physical bridges. Yes, I think the whole of human history is involved in building a road or a bridge, and when I pass over some bridges, I'm just in awe of the accumulated knowledge that has gone into constructing that system, and that really interests me.
I'm back at uni, as I said before, and I'm actually in with the engineers at the moment, and the architects, and yeah, they think differently. They definitely think differently, as I suppose you have to when you're constructing things that millions and thousands, hundreds of millions of people eventually do end up using, such as the Brooklyn Bridge or something, which has been standing now for how many tens of years has it been standing? But they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Have I got time for one more question, or have we got a jet?
Of course.
Yeah,
certainly.
I mentioned Ted Parsons, so I hope you don't mind me asking a question about a former band member, but he was probably the first drummer that I really remember focusing on as a drummer back in the day as a real young fella in the 80s and early 90s. And he was in the band for some pretty important releases. So he was in the band for Holy Money, Children of God, and I know his drums appeared on some other cuts on albums such as Love of Life. But would you say that he was a crucial muse for you as a percussionist? Was he a crucial contributor to the band?
Well, all the musicians were crucial contributors. Yeah, Ted, I don't know what to say. Ted's a great drummer. It's the typical back and forth, try this, that's great, don't do that, do this, and then they bring their own personality to it as well. And Ted was just a good drummer, a great drummer, good person too.
Yep. Yeah, great, fantastic, yeah. Mate, that's it. Yeah, it's been fantastic to talk to you. Really appreciate you spending the time to have a conversation with us here, and I hope we see you down here again sometime soon.
I hope so too. Thank you, Andrew.
It's been a pleasure. All the best with everything.
Good luck with your disco pursuits.
I look forward to playing. Don't worry about that. I'm just my only dilemma with it. Do I use 5-string or 4-string? What do you think? I'll ask you that question now. What do you prefer, 4-string or 5-string bass?
Oh, 4.
I do too.
Too many options. Bad idea. Too many options is a bad idea.
Yeah, it's it just sometimes sonically the 5-string.
One string.
I've actually seen people do that. I think the guy from Leor did that. I think, yeah. But Morphine. That's right. He did 2 strings on his bass. Yeah, he did that. But no worries, mate. All right, thanks very much for the conversation again.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject was the one and only Michael Gira from the New York-based outfit Swans. Thanks so much for listening.